In 2013, Mitch Weiss decided to take a path any lesser man wouldn't dare travel. He now finds himself training to become the Midwest's most knowledgeable sports broadcaster. Focusing on Big Ten and Detroit sports teams, he decided to create a dwelling where his training would go undisturbed, a cave. More specifically, the man cave.
No girls allowed.
Mitch enlisted a team of highly sophisticated cavemen into his service to assist him in his tireless search for, well, sports stuff. When they're not sleeping, eating, or, oh yeah, they're analyzing sports as best a caveman can. You have now entered the man cave.
Danny Weiss is the youngest member of the Cavemen. Standing 6'4" and a fluffy 243 pounds, this Homo erectus enjoys hunting but will also gather from time to time. He has a striking resemblance to Man-Bear Pig and often laughs at his own jokes. At 5'11", 190 pounds, Milton Marcus Lafayette O'Quinn III has the daunting task of being the president and only member of the Joey Harrington fan club. When not watching sports, he enjoys candlelit baths while listening to his favorite album, Big Willie Style. Daniel D-Mac McDonald comes in at 6'1", 200 pounds and hails from the inner city of Bloomfield Hills. He enjoys enjoyable things, sleeps when he's tired, and hopes that one day Ryan Gosling will get a tattoo of Sparty on his chest.
Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mitch.
And this is the Man Cave.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this edition of Mitch's Man Cave. I'm your host, Mitch Weiss, and I'm down here with the Cavemen. I hope you all enjoyed your 4th of July weekend. I know I did. It was a long weekend, starting Wednesday, ended last night. Little bit of a blur, but I know I had a good time. What about you guys? You guys enjoy your 4th of July weekends?
Absolutely.
I did. I was in Chicago. Luckily, the hockey fans kind of died out by then because they're not real hockey fans anyways. So they weren't still celebrating like Detroit would have been. So it was fun.
Yeah, I just consumed a lot of soft drinks.
Thanks for your input.
You're like, my mom made me some sick, like, chili dip, and I just chilled.
I got a great tan this last 4 days.
Yeah?
Lots of sun. Lots of hanging out outside. You know, just being American.
Yeah.
This 4th of July.
Yeah, we spent 2 days out by Max's pool. Our buddy Max.
Quite an experience.
Yeah, it was a good time. A lot of grilling. Didn't get to see any fireworks, though, which doesn't disappoint me too much. I'm not really a big fireworks guy anyways.
Once you've seen them, you know what they're about.
Yeah, exactly. But all in all, a good time, good weekend. Glad to celebrate America. But I'm even happier to announce that we've got the return of the D-Mac. D-Mac's back on the show after a 1-week hiatus.
Thank you. I enjoyed my time. I actually took a tour up to the UP, then visited my buddy who's studying for the Michigan Bar in northern Wisconsin, Rhinelander, Wisconsin, if anybody knows where that is. Headed down to Chicago for the 4th of July, and then went to a wedding in St. Joe's July 5th, and then I slept for 2 days straight, and back on that grind in Detroit style. So it's good to be back. Thank you.
Well, we're glad to have you.
What'd you do in the UP?
What you do in the UP? You fish.
What do you do in the UP?
You fish and drink. There's a good, I don't know if you pointed out, Mitch, Jeff Daniels on David Letterman.
Mm-hmm.
Or, no, it was Midwestern Gentleman, but I think you like posted the clip from that.
Yeah.
And then Dave Letterman asked that exact same question like 2 weeks ago. He said, "So what do you do?" And Jeff Daniels kind of went silent, like, But, he just basically pointed out that really you just fish and then you drink, which is true.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's nice and relaxing.
Do you have a cottage up there or something?
My buddy Rocky does.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's not the UP. It's like just a little east in Rhinelander, Wisconsin.
Gotcha.
Similar.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I checked out the 311 concert last night at DTE. I think it was my third or fourth, maybe even fifth time seeing them. And they always put on a good show, but this time I had amazing seats. I was front row, right behind the pit, so I got to see them up close, saw their sweat, saw them playing the guitar up close. It was really cool. And Cypress Hill opened for them.
Wow.
And Cypress Hill rocked. They put on a good show, even as old as they are. They were killing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how old is 311 even?
They're old. They're getting up there too, but they don't look as old. Be Real from Cypress Hill is looking like a grandpa almost.
Pushing mid-40s.
Yeah, he's.
He probably is a grandpa.
Yeah, he might be. Wouldn't surprise me. The Pistons made a big splash over this past week, signing Josh Smith to a 4-year, $56 million contract. And a lot of people are wondering if it's a good fit, how his attitude is going to fit in with the young core that the Pistons have put together, whether or not he can play the small forward position alongside Monroe and Andre Drummond, and just if it was a good move in general for the team going forward. And what I think is that it is a good move. I think it's going to elevate us into a playoff team. It seems like there's 5 spots locked down in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference with the Miami Heat, the New York Knicks, the new look Brooklyn Nets, the Indiana Pacers, and the Chicago Bulls. So that leaves 3 slots open in the East, and I think that the Pistons are in a good position to snag one of those spots. I'm glad they didn't sign Josh Smith to a max deal. That was my big issue when it was being rumored he was looking at Detroit, or we were looking at him, whether or not they were going to give him a max deal, and they didn't.
It was 14 a year?
With incentives, it can get up to 14, but it's just the base is just under 14. And so between us, Philly, Toronto, Washington, Cleveland, Charlotte, Orlando, you got to throw Boston there now because they're completely retooling. Atlanta's lost Josh Smith and Joe Johnson the last 2 years. Milwaukee lost Brandon Jennings and Monte Ellis. So I think that of that bunch of teams, Detroit is looking good to get one of those remaining 3 playoff spots. And it's hard to argue against getting a 27-year-old guy who's just entering the prime of his career. He averaged 17 points a game, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists last season. And I'm not making a comparison, but the only other player in the NBA to average those numbers was LeBron James. Josh Smith is super athletic, and all of a sudden with him and Drummond and Caldwell Pope and our second-round pick Tony Mitchell, the Pistons have a very athletic team as opposed to last year when we really lacked athleticism. He's a versatile defender. He can guard any of the 3 front court spots. Well, maybe not center, but he can definitely guard the 3 or the 4. He's a good shot blocker, and he's actually an underrated passer when he decides to play on the post and not settle for jump shots, which is something that he'll have to solve, and the coaching staff will have to get in his head about not settling for the 3-point shot because he's not a good career 3-point shooter. But it makes Detroit relevant again in the NBA, which is also big. I think that's another big thing about the signing is a big name free agent coming to the Pistons. This is the first time it's happened in quite a while in my lifetime, I think.
So do you think by this signing of them they're already relevant because they have a new coach, their best player is new to the team, they don't have a point guard. I think we're going to put a lot of pressure on Pope to play big immediately. I still think they have a long way to go, and
I just mean relevant by being talked about because over the last 4 seasons,
right, we've had nobody. Our nationally televised game have been nothing. I mean, I don't remember having a nationally televised game the past couple of years. Right.
And so just the fact that a big name free agent that was unrestricted chose to go to Detroit is good for the team. And I know people are saying, well, this is another Joe D mishap and he's going to regret it just like he regretted Charlie Villanueva and Ben Gordon. But first of all, Josh Smith is already way better than either of those guys are. And second, I don't think this was all Joe Dumars. I think that the new owner, Tom Gores, pushed this move because he wanted to make a big splash and build his business. And so you can't put it all on Joe D if it doesn't work out. But I think it's going to work out. He's joining a young team, and when he was in Atlanta, that's his hometown. And sometimes guys, when they're playing in their hometown, it just doesn't work because they have too much outside pressure from their family and their friends that they grew up with in that city.
A lot of distractions,
A lot of distractions. So I'm sure that he's glad he's out of Atlanta and he's getting a fresh start and more of a middle market team where he'll be the focal point.
I hope he doesn't get lazy from this big contract, though, because I know the Rockets showed some interest and offered him a pretty good deal, but we offered him more.
Right. Well,
so I think we're just going for whoever paid him the most because he knows Pistons are not a contender.
I was surprised he turned down Houston with Dwight Howard going there. They played ball together back in the day.
Yeah.
At Oak Hill?
Right.
Yep. But
So-
I don't think you have to worry about him slacking off or being lazy because he's only 27. And so when this contract runs out after 4 years, he'll still be 31.
And he's still got
And he'll
then he
still
wants to
have
sign
value.
his 5-year end of the career
Right.
deal kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, but even though he's only 27, he's still been in the league 9 years because he came out of high school. So he still has had 9 years of
Wear and tear?
wear and tear. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't think he's ever suffered any major injuries. He's never been a guy that's been injury prone as far as I remember.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
Did he win a dunk contest one year?
I don't know if he won, but I think
he was in it.
He was in them.
Because he is a high flyer.
Yeah, and he'll bring excitement to the team too.
Yeah, that's true.
But what do we do about a point guard?
Well, that was what I was going to get to next. I don't think we're done by any means. I don't think this is the last move that the Pistons are going to make this offseason. I think they're going to look for a veteran point guard. I still believe they think Brandon Knight is going to be the point guard. They're going to plug him in there, see what he can do, hope that Mo Cheeks can work some magic on him like he did with Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City before he came here. But I think they're going to look for a steady veteran point guard who's more of a facilitator, a true point guard type. And I know that there were some burned bridges, but I would love to see Chauncey Billups come back and be that veteran influence backup point guard.
Wow, yeah.
He can play a little bit of two guard if he needs to. But I think that he's upset with Joe D for shipping him out a few years ago for Allen Iverson, and I don't know if that's been mended yet.
Weren't they talking about re-signing Jose Calderon?
Well, he signed with Dallas.
Oh, he
He's
did?
gone.
Okay.
He's going to start for Dallas. They offered a contract to Will Bynum, I saw today, so we'll see where that goes. Will Bynum actually played great last season when Drummond was healthy. He was throwing him all sorts of alley-oops, and they had a good connection, so he might be a good guy to bring off the bench. But he's not as much of a true point guard either. He's more of a flashy guy. He doesn't get everybody involved. He drives and he throws up a lob. That's pretty much his game. So
How much traction does this Rondo rumor mill stuff have?
I think it depends on what Boston's trying to do because we know that they're trying to reload, obviously, by getting all these draft picks and shipping out the older guys, KG and Paul Pierce. But in a rebuilding cycle, to have a veteran point guard who's still young as your building block might not be a bad thing to hang on to him. But if they're just completely looking to start over, I could see them taking on the expiring contracts of Rodney Stuckey and Charlie Villanueva, just taking them on, and then they'll have tons of cap space next season during the loaded free agency when LeBron comes out, and I think Wade and all these guys are going to be free agents next year. So we'll see what direction they go, but I think that Charlie Villanueva and Rodney Stuckey, if they're on the Pistons when the season starts, that they'll be looked at as trade deadline pieces to trade them away, depending on how the Pistons are doing. But if we're in playoff contention and other teams are bowing out and they want to bring on expiring contracts and will give up, a draft pick or a veteran player who can help us make a playoff run, then I can see them being moved. I really hope that they just get rid of Charlie Villanueva, just amnesty him, get him out of here. I don't think he has any sort of value other than his contract expiring.
Yeah, he's overstayed his welcome in Detroit.
Right. And I heard some other people complaining about, this is regarding the Josh Smith move, about how we should have saved the money for next year with that loaded free agent class and try not to make the playoffs this year because the draft class next year is loaded as well. But to that I say the Pistons likely weren't going to be in the lottery next year just because of the young core that we have, just from internal growth. They probably would have made the playoffs as an 8 seed with all these other teams just completely reloading and selling out all their players. And besides Josh Smith, like I said earlier, there hasn't been a big name free agent that signed with the Pistons in a long time. And so to say that the Pistons will be players in next year's free agency is kind of a joke to me, because I can give you in one word which one of those free agents would have signed with the Pistons next year, and it's none. None of those guys would have signed with Detroit. So you can take that to the bank too.
Yeah, I think if a guy like Josh Smith shows interest, you got to capitalize on it.
And it wasn't a bad contract.
No, not at all. I think it was the perfect value. It's where it should have been at.
Right. I'm going to go as far as saying that the Pistons will make the playoffs, and I'll put a guarantee stamp on that.
Yeah.
Our poll question this week has to do with Smith and what the fans think about the signing. So, Milt, do you want to hit us with the question and the results?
Yes, the question is, do you like the Pistons signing Josh Smith? 56% of our viewers did like the signing and 44% disagreed.
That's about where I thought it would be, kind of split,
Yeah.
leaning a little bit more towards liking it. I just think it's hard to argue with bringing a 27-year-old guy in his prime to a mid-market team that doesn't usually sign big free agents and adding him to a young core. If he can mature and get his attitude in check and not settle for jump shots, then all of a sudden we have one of the best front courts defensively and rebounding in the league.
Well, as a guy who doesn't, I think basketball would be my weakest sport.
Mm-hmm.
And as a guy, I had to do some research on Josh Smith as well. So I think a lot of these people voting in this don't really know Josh Smith's story. They don't know that statistically he compares to LeBron James. That's a totally different.
Those are numbers. It's not
Exactly.
It doesn't really equate to the court and his mentality towards the game and stuff.
Right, but what he brings to the Pistons is, like you said, something we haven't had in 4 years.
It's some star power.
My one critique, though, is that, like Mitch talked about a little bit, is that he's not a good outside shooter. Career percentage is, I think, around 28%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we really lack as outside shooters. And hopefully KCP can sort of fulfill that role as a shooter.
And
but that's yet to be seen.
he also takes, it's a funny stat, he takes the most long twos out of anyone in the NBA, and he shoots at about like 32%. So people just don't like his shot selection and his
Right.
style.
It needs some
He
work.
settles a
Needs
lot.
he settles instead of like driving to the lane or, doing smarter things with the ball. He might just pull up right inside the three.
But I'm hoping that having a new start and being the focal point with a new head coach who seems to be a player's coach, relates well to them and was a former champion himself. And then also having the new hire, Rasheed Wallace, as an assistant on the coach, I think he's going to be a tremendous influence on these guys. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you've got Rasheed Wallace and he's always been the technical foul guy and was a hissy fit guy, but he's really going to be able to relate to the players well. And he had a tremendous career. He's one of the best post power forwards who could stretch power forwards in the last 15, 20 years. He was a tremendous passer out of the block. He was a great teammate from all the stories that I've heard from former players and stuff. And I think he'll be a good teacher for Monroe, for Drummond, for Smith. And I really like the hire.
And even though he definitely has an eccentric personality, he provides energy to the team.
It balances out with Cheeks well, because Cheeks is more of a low-key guy, and Sheed obviously is the opposite.
And I think that's something that this team has lacked the past couple of years. There's just it's just very stagnant and low energy. And
players will respect him. They'll listen to him.
And Cheeks wouldn't be bold enough to just bring in Rasheed his first year as a coach, without knowing that Rasheed is totally capable of helping this team out and mentoring and things like that.
And if you remember him playing the post, he was a very fundamentally sound player.
Very
He's
fundamental.
He's the best.
And defensively as well. He was always the guy who was talking on defense, directing everybody.
Yeah.
And he's a former champion. So we've got him as a former champion on the bench. We've got Cheeks as a former champion on the bench. So I think there's some good leadership quality there.
And a guy like Drummond, who's very raw, who could use some fundamental development.
Right.
Rasheed will definitely help out in that field.
I was reading an article, I think yesterday, and they were talking about the best players under a certain age. I think it was 24 or 25. And they had Drummond as the best rising big man. Just from his pure athletic standpoint and ability and his hands, I guess he has really good hands catching balls and rebounds and passes and stuff like that.
He plays with a lot of energy. He's a great offensive and defensive rebounder.
Right.
If he can just fine-tune his offensive game a little bit, he could be a top big man in the league.
I like the direction the team is going. So it's everyone's favorite part of the show, Danny's weekly weigh-in. Do you want to tell him a little bit of a backstory here before we started recording what was going on? Or do you want to save it for after? You want to get the weigh-in and then tell him why?
Yeah, we'll get the weigh-in and then we'll talk.
Okay.
Here's a teaser. Fiber. Don't aim that at me. Predictions. Milt, you're pretty on point. What do you got?
Yeah, I think
I got you last week.
you got
Watch that cord.
My prediction this week, you're gonna
He
weigh.
was 242 last week.
I'm gonna go with 241. He's a
I don't know.
power.
See, I always give Dan the benefit of the doubt, and I've learned from that.
Yeah.
And let's not also forget we just celebrated America's birthday.
Yeah, a 4-day week.
But he is looking
celebration.
good. He is looking good, but man, I don't know. Milt's giving us some edge. I'll go with I'll just say flatline 242.
Oh,
And
that's what I was gonna do.
That's an accomplishment for the July 4th weekend,
Right.
because that's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of ordeal.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I go 242 as well, we should
No,
throw some.
No, you're the
some guess-
host. You got to go 240 or 243.
I want to get on a 2-week winning streak for guessing. Let's throw out some decimals and we'll play who gets the closest decimal.
You can go 242.9 if you want.
I'll go 242.7.
All right, then I'll do. Can I redo it and you
Go
have
for
to
it.
stick by yours? I'll
Yeah.
do 242.8.
Okay. And Mill, you were 241?
Yeah.
All right.
Jeez.
Last week I lost by 0.8. If I lose by another decimal, I'm gonna be pretty upset.
Does your scale do decimals?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We got our final result in. Can I get a little drum roll? And a little bit of a shocker, he weighed in this week at 238.4,
Wow.
which is, I think, an all-time low.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, congratulations. That's quite an accomplishment,
I like it.
Impressive.
Good job, Danny.
Listen, guys, I'm just as shocked as you are.
especially given the circumstances of this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, and if I would have said 238 though, you would have been 243. So
Exactly.
so you're welcome.
Oh, so you're taking the credit for this.
Well, you know, I do what I can.
You juicing, Danny? You juicing, bro?
I think he's doing the opposite of juicing. He's de-juicing.
Listen, I didn't get a list of any banned substances in the man cave, so
Touche.
This is true.
Well, tell us about your substance use.
Fiber.
We all want to know.
well, this is what happened. I honestly didn't weigh myself at all this past week, and just because I didn't want to know the answer. And then I weighed myself right before I came over, and I was right around there. I was around 238, and but then I ate dinner, so I wanted to make sure that I passed that through quickly. So I took a fiber laxative, which was sitting around because my dad had back surgery the other month, and
Did you just do a shout out to your
So
dad
I bring
via
in Steve-O
laxative?
into the conversation.
Steve-O, thanks for the laxative.
So he's your drug dealer, huh?
Yeah, he's got what I need.
Jeez.
It was natural. It's a natural supplement.
Keep it in the family, I guess, right?
But yeah, I'm very happy with that. I thought I was gonna degress a little bit because of the holiday. And
Wait,
everything.
so you weighed in at 238, then took the laxative, and you still weighed in at 238?
yeah, but I would have weighed more because I ate dinner. So
Oh.
it helped me pass my dinner quickly.
Touche. What'd you eat for dinner?
I had a Greek salad with chicken and a cup of navy bean soup.
Wow.
Nice.
I had a Whopper for lunch.
Yeah, you've been eating a lot of fast food.
I have.
You've been maintaining though, have you?
Yeah, I try and stay active during the day.
Yeah.
Work up a little sweat. about getting
Well, you got
in.
those little kids chasing you around all day at camp.
Yeah, I chase the little rascals around, show them how to be ball players.
What kind of camp is that?
It's a summer recreation camp
Isn't
for
Sandusky?
Bloomfield Hills schools. Let's not go there.
Yikes. My brother's fantasy football team last year was Sandusky Power Bottoms.
It's good.
Eddie O camp started today.
Oh, nice.
I got to talk to Coach Eddie O.
That was my first ever job.
That's still
He's
going
the
on.
man. Yeah, they have it at Bloomfield Hills Middle School.
That's
So
where
I got to yuck it up with Eddie O for about 5 minutes.
I really developed my triple threat position at the Eddie O camp.
Yeah.
I like Let's Make a Deal.
And the rocker step.
Yeah. He was all about the triple threat. So that brings me to my hero of the week, the famous and very handsome Daniel Weiss.
Oh,
I think he's my hero of the week, too.
look
Listen,
at all that confidence. I like it.
the guy comes out of nowhere and loses 4 pounds the July 4th week. Who does that? Has anyone ever done that?
The kid's insane.
I know I gained 8, so I'm not in that. I'm not in that grouping.
You just got my nomination for the All-Star game.
Seriously.
Benoit, move over. Fan vote Daniel Weiss.
And well-deserved. The Red Wings made a couple splashes in the free agent market themselves with the signing of Stephen Weiss and Daniel Alfredson. I think those are going to be 2 great additions to the team. Both of them are former captains. Weiss is an alternate captain, but Alfredson was the longtime captain for the Ottawa Senators, probably their best player in the history of the franchise. And Stephen Weiss was kind of buried in Florida because they're not really a big market team, and they were never really successful, but he's a great player, great name. Danny, you're going to be all over that jersey. I remember you mentioning it last week.
I've been checking every week for when they start selling it, but it's not out yet.
Well, he wore number 9 in Florida,
Which obviously you can't wear in
which
Detroit.
is a great number, my former high school football number, but yeah, we got Gordie Howe retired, so he's not going to wear number 9. I wonder if they'll let him get 19, or what do you think?
Yeah, right.
It's not retired yet, is
There's
it?
no way.
I don't think it
He wouldn't
is.
even think to wear that.
What about 99? You think the
I was
Red Wings
thinking
will see
99 maybe.
That'd be pretty cool.
That'd
Yeah.
be tight.
D-Mac, you don't like that?
No, 99. I don't know.
What about 91?
I think 90 maybe. Yeah, 91.
90? I can see 90. That's what Madonna did when he came over because he was 9 in Dallas.
Yeah,
and he wore
90
90
straight.
for us.
I think 99's a little over the top.
Yeah, 99 might be
It's like a
little over
double
the top.
zero.
But Stephen Weiss will be the second line center, which is something we need with Filppula leaving to Tampa Bay. I think that's actually an upgrade there because though Filppula has more potential as the younger player, Stephen Weiss is a more steady player. Mm-hmm. Filppula was more of a peak and valley guy. You know, he'd have his highs and his lows. And Weiss is only 3 years older than him anyways. So it's not much of an age difference.
Yeah, he was a lot younger than I thought.
Yeah.
He's only 30, and we
Yeah,
signed to
he's
a
30.
5-year deal, so he'll be
5-year
around for a
deal,
while.
$24.5 million. So about a $5 million salary cap hit each year. And he's going to be hungry because being in Florida and not tasting the playoffs much, he's going to be ready to go. And then Alfredson, same thing. 40 years old, been stuck in Ottawa his whole career, not really much playoff success, comes to a franchise like Detroit, who has been a consistent winner. And that was something he mentioned was the draw for him to sign with us, was the fact that he's coming to a winning culture because he's playing for a cup. And I love that. I love signing guys who are at the end of their career, who are hungry, who have never won a cup before. And so I hope that he can help us bring one to Hockey Town because the Stanley Cup needs to come home. But
Cup or bust.
I see him taking over on the second line as well because Ken Holland already has announced that Damian Brunner will not be back because he rejected the Red Wings contract offer and he's seeking more money and more of a long-term contract. And I don't know what's up with Dan Cleary because there's been reports that he was close to signing and then they were rebuffed and now he's, I guess, not going to sign with the Red Wings. So I don't really know what's happening there, but I never liked him as the second line forward anyways. I think Alfredsson's going to be a much better fit there. And he's another Swedish guy. He joins Franzen and Zetterberg, so they'll have a nice little connection there.
I think they're going to put Alfredsson on the same line as Zetterberg.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know if you said that.
No.
You said second line, right?
I said second line.
I could see him putting him on the first line just because they worked together in the 2006 Olympic Games, and Alfredsson had the most points out of anyone in that Olympics, and I guess they had really good chemistry for the Swedish team.
Yeah.
So I could see that first line. You know, I would love
we
to
should
see
just get an all
Dats
Swedish
on it.
line.
All Swede line.
You can't do that, though, because Dats probably needs to center the first line, winged by Zetterberg and Alfredsson, because Stephen Weiss is a center. So you can't have Zetterberg playing center with Alfredsson and Franzen on the wings, and then have Datsuk at center with whoever else on the wings, and then drop Stephen Weiss down to third line center. That doesn't really make much sense, especially with the way that Datsuk and Zetterberg play together. I think it's going to go Datsuk first center, winged by Zetterberg and Alfredsson. Second line, Franzen, Stephen Weiss at center, and then one of the young guys, maybe Nyquist or somebody, going to step up and be that other wing. Yeah,
We got some Twitter action from Kyle Sloan.
what's he saying?
Even if it wouldn't have played out any different, is signing 40-year-old Alfredsson worth losing Brunner? No.
He says no.
He says no.
See, I think that it's a yes. And I'll ask you guys this. Would you trade Stephen Weiss and Daniel Alfredsson for Filppula and Damian Brunner? And I think I would every single time, any day of the week.
Well, and Bruner's looking for a multiple-year contract. We got a 1-year superstar who's looking for, like you said, who's looking for that cup. This is a big, this is like we're built to win this year. It's like the Tigers right now.
Right.
And Brunner was only good because he played on the line with studs.
Yeah.
He's a one-way guy, and when he's not in the lineup with Zetterberg or Dats on the same line or whatever, he just doesn't produce. I think he didn't score like the last 20 games of the season.
Yeah, he got off to a really hot start. He was kind of an unknown quantity, so no one really knew what his game was. Then the NHL players figured him out, and he dropped off in production. And then in the playoffs, he had a good playoff run. He was on that third line, which was probably our most exciting line. I think he scored 4 or 5 goals in the playoffs, which is solid. But I just don't think that he's had the longevity to warrant a 4 or 5 year contract for $4 million a year. I'd rather sign a veteran guy who, D-Mac, what were those numbers you said? He's got 1,100 points in 1,170 games or something like that.
It's 1,108 and 1,178 games. So yeah, same
the guy
thing.
produces.
Right, and a guy who's hungry and is a veteran, and you know what you're getting with him.
Yeah, I think Brunner, since he had that good playoff run, and also he scored a lot of clutch goals, he left a good taste in fans' mouth, and so therefore fans overvalue him.
You got to remember, he's 27 also. Just coming off his first NHL season, he'll be 28 next year. And I don't think 3, 2, 1. And I don't know if this went into the thought process with Ken Holland, but if you remember a few years back, Franzen had that amazing run in the playoffs when he was younger and kind of an unknown. And then we gave him that huge contract, and he has not lived up to that contract so far. So I don't know if that was going through Ken Holland's mind, but I'm glad to let him walk if he's looking for 5 years, $20 million.
Listen, if there's one thing we know, Ken Holland knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
That's true.
He's got a proven track record, and maybe moving to the Eastern Conference, he wanted to bring some guys who were in the Eastern Conference along because they'll have some familiarity with the teams that we'll be facing next year.
For the Red Wings, if you want to play with the Red Wings and you're not a top 4 player, you're taking a pay cut.
Yeah.
Bruner's not a top 8 player on the Red Wings.
No.
So he's not getting what he does deserve that with a different team.
Right. It's not that he doesn't have the skill set to
Right.
do it, but I think that what I forgot to mention in my analysis of that trade is it's not only losing Brunner, it's not only gaining Stephen Weiss and Alfredsson in place of Brunner and Filppula, but you're also letting guys like Nyquist and Anderson and those young forwards, Abdelkader. I forgot about Abdelkader in my line judgment.
Yeah.
Those guys will be up there too, and it'll open up spots for those guys to step in.
I can't wait to see Abdicator next year, man.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great. Because what would you rather do? Have a 4-year or a $5 million guy, cap hit guy like Brunner, or a Gustav Nyquist whose cap hit is probably right around like $1 million?
Right.
You know, so that you have to weigh that into the equation as well. Midsummer Classic, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, is coming up. It'll be played on July 16th, which is a Tuesday. And the Tigers lead the majors in All-Star selections with 6. Scherzer, Verlander, Torrey Hunter, Johnny Peralta, and the 2 big fellas, Miggy and Prince Fielder. And what's funny about it is, on the surface, you would think with Jim Leyland being the manager of the team that he used his authority and just picked all of his own guys. But in reality, 5 of those guys got voted on by either the fans or the players, and Leland's only selection was Justin Verlander. And so anyone who's saying that Leland was being a homer is completely wrong. And I think choosing Verlander was smart, even though he's not having a up-to-par season as far as Verlander standards. He's still one of the best arms in the American League.
You can't argue with Leland bringing on Verlander.
No, and if you look at Justin Verlander's numbers this season alone, not attached to his name, it's a good season. It's a very good season. And
yeah, but Cabrera's having the season of a lifetime.
So
how do you not? Why would you choose Verlander, who's having
Cabrera got brought on by the fans. He was voted in by the fans.
Okay.
So as Leland's like, I get to pick whoever I want pick.
There's 2 voting things. There's the fan vote and then the players vote. So the fans vote the starters, and then the players vote for the reserve players, and then the coaches of each team can bring on, I don't know what number of player, but they can bring on a couple of players of their own choice. And then there's the final vote where they put a pool of about 6 guys together, which Benoit is in, so we could actually have 7 All-Stars.
So Verlander didn't get voted by the fans?
No, he didn't get voted by the fans or the players. I think that Jim Leyland going into this, or when making the selection, was thinking the Tigers are going to be hopefully in the pennant race and in contention for possibly playing in the World Series. And with the All-Star game deciding which team in the World Series gets home field advantage, he wants to have one of the best arms in the American League on his staff coming out of the bullpen, which is a smart move strategically. But if you haven't already, there's a Twitter movement going right now for Joaquin Benoit. It's called #BackBenoit, and you can use that to find all the voting stuff. So get out there and vote if you're a Tigers fan, and get us our 7th representative in the All-Star game.
You want to see who he's up against?
Yeah, tell us who he's up against.
So Benoit's up against Steve Delbar.
Who?
Steve Delbar of Toronto.
Nice.
David Robertson of New York Yankees. Tanner Shepers of Texas. And Koji Ura of Boston.
Are you inferring that he's Japanese?
That's just how you pronounce his name. I did take a few Japanese classes, so I tried to.
Well, that's how that's how I understood it. So that was good. Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And then the NL, the only name that you really need to look at is Yasiel Puig. I mean, this kid's got to get voted in, but he's up against Hunter Pence, Adrian Gonzalez, Freddie Freeman, and Ian Desmond.
Yeah, see, I know all those guys. On the American League side, those are a bunch of no-names. I only know Benoit because he plays for the Tigers.
Right.
And Koji Uehara because he's actually on my fantasy team,
Yeah.
which is in first place still, by the way, in case you're keeping tabs.
Bowling.
Who plays fantasy baseball?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, I won
You
last
must have
year,
no
so I'm trying
life.
to defend my
The
shit
real
here.
fantasy sports starting in less than a month,
No,
and
man.
everyone's getting
Fantasy baseball
getting a
is the
piece of
original
this.
fantasy game. Everyone knows that.
Well, yeah, but we do live in America, right?
We do.
Okay, so
I think
So you're not an American pastime or baseball is America pastime guy.
I just don't have time dominating all of my 6 fantasy football leagues. I just really don't have time for another sport. I do have a full-time job, and I do like to give back to the community in my spare time as well. So
It's my summer hobby.
Fair enough.
Drinking beer and fantasy baseball is pretty simple.
How do you give back to the community?
Party with Miley Ray Cyrus.
She
Yeah.
likes to party a little bit.
I think Tuiasa Sopo just did something in the game that's going on right now. The Tigers are playing the Cleveland Indians, and
Oh, sure did.
Donnie Kelly just tweeted, "Welcome back, you beautiful Hawaiian man." So I think Tui just went yard or
He
something.
did. I just looked at my phone. I got the update.
Oh man,
That's my Tiger, man. I love Tui.
Good. He struck out in the second inning,
Yeah.
so good to see him hitting.
Yep. All right, it's wifey time. Milt.
It's time for Milt's Wife of the Week. And for this week, surprise, surprise, I chose a tennis wife. And it's going to be Andy Murray's girlfriend of 8 years.
Are you trying to wrap this right now, or
You
what's
know, I was
going
just
on?
talking, and then it kind of went together. But let's get into it. Her name's Kim Sears. She's 25-year-old British beauty, and she's been dating Andy for, like I said, about 8 years. Engagement talks are starting to heat up. And as you all know at home, Andy Murray did win Wimbledon this past weekend. And Andy Murray was the first Brit to win the Wimbledon in 77 years, so that was huge.
That's
And,
like World War II era.
You know who was the last one to win it?
I can't say that I do. Who?
Fred Perry.
Oh, I know Fred. No, who's Fred Perry?
Yeah, there's a clothing line, Fred Perry.
I know
That's-
Steve Perry. I know that. Anybody? No?
Basketball.
Yep.
But I guess this Andy Murray and Sears, they met through her father, Nigel, who is a British tennis coach, and they met at a tournament. So she's been around tennis all her life, and she knows how the schedule is. So she's acclimated to Andy being gone and all that stuff. So she would make a great wife, and
The hard life of a tennis player.
and she's
Oh,
just
man.
gorgeous too.
Yeah. Well, I think after this broadcast, you're going to be putting some pressure on Andy to really wrap this up, because she's like, "Did you hear Mitch's man cave? Milton said I'm the wife of the week, and I'm not a wife yet." So
Andy is one of our regular listeners, so
Yeah.
Wait, his dad's name is Nigel?
Yeah.
I feel like Nigel's like the stereotypical British
British
name.
name,
Sure.
yeah.
Like Boris is
Nigel.
Russian. Mike is American.
Joe.
Joe works too. Joe Smith. And then you've got Nigel.
It's a pretty sweet name. Nigel.
Nigel. Remember the Thornberries?
yeah,
That
that's what
old
I was
TV
show.
show? Wasn't the dad's name
Nigel
Nigel
Thornberry, yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
And he was British.
And he was. He was absolutely British.
He was very British.
All right, Milt. Well, thanks for that.
Anytime.
So there are some pretty big national news stories in the sports world this past week. The biggest one probably would be Dwight Howard signing with the Houston Rockets. I think that Houston is a great fit for him. Him and James Harden are going to form a great duo down there, and they have good pieces around them that complement them very well, like Chandler Parsons at the 3, Danny's favorite player, the Great White Hope. We got Jeremy Lin there, and if Omir Ashik stays, then him and Dwight Howard are going to be a great tandem down low. So I think that's a good fit for him, and they'll be a good team next year. They'll be someone to reckon with. And then Brad Stevens, formerly of Butler, was hired in a shocking move by the Boston Celtics. And everyone in the coaching circles is applauding the move, saying that he's one of the great young minds of the game. Some in the media are saying that it's not a good fit because college coaches hardly ever pan out in the NBA for whatever reason. Personally, I think it's a good hire for them. He's a young mind. He's a smart guy. He'll be able to relate to the players well because he's around their age. And I think it's a good fit. And then this just came in but Meta World Peace has been waived by the Lakers.
Peaced out.
So it seems like they're just going to be going in total rebuild mode.
Oh, it's okay, dude. They just signed Chris Kaman to replace Dwight Howard.
Yeah. The
Chippewa.
The former Great White Hope. But it's going to be an interesting year next year in the NBA. There's a lot of teams who are consistent winners, like the Lakers and the Celtics. Probably the two most historic teams in the NBA are both going to be terrible next year. And it's going to be fun. I think I'm not a big NBA fan, but I'm definitely going to pay attention more next year because there's going to be a lot of unknown outside of the Heat.
So what do you think? Do we bring Meta World Peace back to the Pels? Back up Josh Smith?
No, I don't think that's a good fit. It's not really what we're looking for at this point.
We're not looking for peace. We're looking for world domination players. We're going to pass on Meta World today and tomorrow.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Mitch's Man Cave. Thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in next Tuesday.